In this video segment, we'll review the setup procedure both under normal operation and short jack conditions for Tower 703, a 2019 Seagrave aerial scope tower ladder. We'll begin by discussing some apparatus positioning and how it relates to the setup and deployment of the aerial scope. Review and demonstrate procedures for setting up the apparatus for use of the elevated platform. And then we'll demonstrate the setup of stabilizers under both normal and short jack circumstances. Personnel shall review the Seagrave Aerial Scope Operation and Maintenance Manual, Section 4, Operation. These procedures must be carefully read and understood prior to operating the apparatus. There are several warnings that accompany the setup and stabilization of this apparatus. Personnel shall never operate the platform without first ensuring that the apparatus is leveled and stabilized. Be sure the area on both sides of the apparatus is clear of people and obstructions before operating the ground stabilizers. Never set the outriggers or jacks on unstable ground such as curbs, manhole covers, or storm drains. And always use the stabilizer ground pads provided with the apparatus. Always pay attention to posted warning and caution placards on the apparatus. Here are a few relevant to the stabilization of the unit. It is dangerous to operate this apparatus without first being properly trained, and members should use extreme caution when operating around electrical hazards. The stabilizers on the Seagrave aerial scope consist of 4 jacks, 2 front and 2 rear, as well as 2 center outriggers. Now let's take a look at the stabilizer controls on the Seagrave aerial scope. Take a moment and familiarize yourself with the key components of the operator stand located on the driver's side of the unit. Now take a moment to familiarize yourself with the controls on the officer side of the unit. Now let's review key points on positioning the apparatus as it relates to vehicle stabilization and setup. There are several key considerations to ensuring we obtain maximum scrub area when positioning the apparatus. For example, placing the turntable at the corner of a multifamily dwelling to ensure we have maximum reach for rescue on 2 sides of the building, versus positioning on a single side of a warehouse or taxpayer type occupancy where we want the platform positioned on the ground. On a single family dwelling, we should position the turntable in front of the driveway or alley, which will allow us to have best access to the building with the platform. Always consider repositioning once the crew has made entry and determined the location of the emergency. The ideal distance from the building face is 20 to 35 feet, with an ideal angle of the cab being 15 degrees away from the building. There are also several key avoidances when positioning. Remember, always reposition if necessary. We cannot place our stabilizers on any manholes, drain covers, curbs, or soft or unstable ground. Always use spotters in places that are tight. Warning: the apparatus cannot be operated on road grades greater than 8 degrees in either direction. The surfaces must be firm and capable of supporting 75 psi to support the stabilizers. Again, do not set up over manhole covers, storm drains, underground parking facilities that do not meet these requirements. Never set up stabilizers across ditches, culverts, or any other opening. The apparatus can be positioned facing either up or downhill. In either condition, the apparatus must be capable of being leveled within the green zone on the leveling indicators. The unit can be positioned either uphill or downhill. It is preferred that the boom operate in the uphill direction. If facing uphill, position the turntable before your objective. If facing downhill, position the turntable past your objective. Here we can see the previous point illustrated. When operating downhill, we've stopped past the objective to ensure the platform can be operated in the uphill position. When facing uphill, We've stopped before the objective to ensure that the platform can be operated in the uphill direction. In most cases, it's to our advantage to use the turntable as our point of reference when positioning the apparatus. This will allow us to achieve maximum scrub area. However, in cases where obvious fire or rescue are presenting, the operator can line the platform with the objective. This will both put the platform in service quickly and allow the platform to be at the optimal working angle. This diagram demonstrates our ability to obtain maximum vertical reach as well as scrub area. By positioning the apparatus closer to the building, we are able to obtain our maximum vertical reach and increased scrub area at higher levels. However, positioning further away from the building, from 30 to 35 feet, allows us to obtain a maximum scrub area on the lower levels and ground level. This drawing demonstrates the apparatus 20 feet away from the building wall. It then shows the vertical and horizontal reach of the elevated platform. This is known as the scrub area. We'll now review the setup and stabilization of Tower 703 under normal operations. Position the apparatus in a location free of overhead obstructions and best suited for aerial operation. Place the transmission in neutral and set the parking brakes, including the front wheel lock. Activate the aerial PTO located on the cab dash. Here we see the driver place the transmission in neutral, pull the parking brake, activate the front wheel lock, and place the aerial PTO in service. As we exit the cab, we'll ensure both level indicators are in the green zone. If either is in the red zone, the apparatus must be repositioned. We'll ensure all ground aerials are capable of supporting stabilizers. Set the wheel chocks in position. We'll then position all 6 ground pads in the stabilizer contact areas. The plates shall be placed on firm ground. Caution will be given to ensure that the plates are not placed in areas that will cause the stabilizer to fail once the boom has been elevated. Next, deploy the stabilizers using the all-jacks lever or individual controls if necessary. Deployment using the all-jacks lever requires the curbside jack enable switch to be activated on the officer's side of the apparatus. This is done by use of a second member. A single operator may use the curbside jack override if they've completed a circle check and ensure that there are no visible obstructions. If obstructions are present, it's recommended to use the individual controls on either side of the apparatus, or have a second member present to spot the officer's side outrigger into place. When using the individual controls, the operator must disengage the high idle to prevent damage. The apparatus must be lifted enough to fully unload the chassis suspension. Thus, all green lights must be illuminated and both level indicators showing in the green zone. It is not required to fully jack the apparatus. Here we see the member on the officer's side has depressed the curbside jack enable switch, allowing the driver to operate the all jacks lever. All 6 stabilizers will begin to lower simultaneously. Initially, the 2 front and 2 rear jacks will make contact with the ground and pause, waiting for the center outriggers to catch up. Once the hydraulic system senses pressure on all 6 stabilizers, the truck will then begin to raise simultaneously on all 6 stabilizers. Here we note there are 6 green lights for the 6 stabilizers, and the level indicator is also in the green, indicating the truck is level and ready for the aerial to be flown. Lastly, we'll install the outrigger lock pins in the hole closest to the center outrigger foot. Then, install the jack locks in the highest position possible on the front and rear jacks. Note, should any stabilizer require adjustment, all pins and locks must be removed prior to making the adjustment. Failure to do so will result in damage to the unit, pin, or locks. Here we see the driver removing the center lock pin from its holster and inserting it into the hole closest to the center stabilizer foot. Next, we see a member removing the lock from its cradle and inserting it into the highest point on the jack. Here we see a member removing the rear lock and inserting it into the highest position where it will fit. The following are the short jack procedures for Tower 703. Short jacking the apparatus is a viable option when there are obstructions preventing you from a full jack deployment. It will initially require a second member to assist with the boom deployment, and boom rotation will be limited to 15 degrees from the center line of the apparatus to the short jack side. You will, however, have full rotation on the fully jacked or working side of the apparatus. Warning: you must adhere to the short jack indicator label, or significant damage will occur to the apparatus. The short jacked outrigger must not be rested on any object. Doing so may cause a false positive sensor activation, thus defeating the rotation interlock on the short jack side. We begin our short jack setup by following all the procedures as defined under normal operations. You may use the all jacks control until the outriggers are extended past the indicator label. Then, switch to the individual control to completely lower the outrigger on the working side. Remember to switch off the high idle when operating the individual stabilizer. We're going to ensure that 5 stabilizers are in the green. Here we see a member using the all jacks to lower the stabilizers. The driver's side will be the short jack side, and the jack has cleared the short jack indicator. Once we've confirmed the short jack outrigger is clear of the indicator line and the 5 other stabilizers are secure, we'll install the outrigger lock pin on the working side and the jack locks in the highest position on the front and rear jacks. With the pedestal or turntable operator in place, the second member will open the manual override access, locate the hydraulic interlock lever, and lift the interlock lever to divert hydraulic power to the boom. With the second member operating the interlock lever, the pedestal operator will raise the boom from the cradle. Once the boom has cleared the cradle, the second member may release the interlock lever. The boom will now function normally, with rotation limited over the short jack side. Close the manual override access. Here we can note 5 of our 6 stabilizer lights are illuminated green. The second member is opening the manual override access, locating the interlock lever, and activating the interlock lever, sending hydraulic power to the aerial device. The pedestal operator is now raising the aerial out of the cradle. Once the boom is raised from the cradle, it will operate without limitation on the fully jacked or working side. Again, the short jack side will only allow 15 degrees of rotation past the center line to that side. Note the clearance required by the turntable as it rotates over the short jack side. This emphasizes the need to follow the guidance of the short jack label. When short jacking the apparatus, a warning will be present at the pedestal screen, notifying the operator that a second member is required to divert the hydraulic power using the interlock lever. In review, it's important that we take note of all warning and caution labels posted on the apparatus and that we're guided by the information located within. Follow proper procedure to avoid injury or damage to the apparatus. Remember our key consideration and avoidances for positioning the apparatus. Are we taking a corner, taking a side, alley, or driveway? Should we reposition once the crew has made their way in the building and located the emergency? Do I need to position 20 or 35 feet away from the building, dependent upon the emergency? And that we always kick the cab out 15 degrees away from the building. We should remember to avoid manholes, storm drains, curbs, and other unstable ground, and always use a spotter if necessary. For more information, review the Seagrave Aerial Scope Operation and Maintenance Manual on the RVFD Apparatus homepage. If you have any questions, contact Deputy Fire Chief Christopher Hind.